Hello there, Steve here in Sydney of the lay gnosis website truebluehealer.com. I've got something interesting to tell you about here, and it's really a test of how awake anyone is in our society, and it's the fact that every week now in Sydney we have proof of afterlife, absolute triple-blind verified truth of life after death, that physical death is a completely misleading myth, a misdirection, and you are guaranteed to have an afterlife, you see. Now, this is being put in our faces on Sydney television in a program called Sensing Murder, and the New Zealand police are providing the database to back up the accuracy of two mediums on different days who get the same names and the same data from deceased people, specifically murder victims, and they often name the perpetrator. Now, this is on mainstream television and peak viewing times in Sydney, and guess what? There's stony silence from all the talk shows. It's not a mention anywhere on the 6 o'clock news, the morning news, the late news. It's not mentioned anywhere. Great news, we've finally conquered death. We've found out that it's a complete ruse. It's a trick played by Mother Nature to make you work hard and do the best you can, but really we've found out it's a huge myth. New Zealand police are leading the world right now, and it's not a news item anywhere in the world. Now, isn't that surprising? It runs completely contrary to the very naive expectations of ordinary street people, and in particular the more gullible skeptics who insist that if life after death was proven, somebody would get a Nobel Prize for it and it would be shouted from the rooftops. I often get this Nobel Prize thing from skeptics who say if something's true, a Nobel Prize would have been ascribed to it. The facts are most skeptics can't name 3 Nobel Prize winners, so they don't pay any attention to that either. So the Nobel Prize thing just seems to be an aphorism they mindlessly repeat without thinking much about it. But Sensing Murder on Sydney television, where afterlife proof is presented many different ways every week. It's presented to you and shown to you and proven by the New Zealand police repeatedly. Hasn't made a dent, not one mention of it on the actual news media, the 6 p.m. news shows, anything like that. Strangely silent are the churches. None of the faiths have come forward and said, we're very happy to see the New Zealand police proving life after death. There's not one mention of it in the media. So, some people get a bit irksome about this, a bit strident about this, and one of them is Victor Zammit. And I've got one of his editorials here for you, and it's good fun to read along with, and he's angry about the whole thing, that everyone's behaving like a stunned mullet and carrying on doing business as usual, which is to their own detriment, because we all know how fear of death is used to control us, and it affects our attitudes to so many things. It often bends people's lives out of shape. But what if you were guaranteed an afterlife and you finally got to understand, and you were told at school there's much scientific evidence that you're only here on a kind of working holiday to learn as much as you can before you go back to where you came from, the spirit world? What if that were true? Wouldn't that change our society and our attitudes to death and our attitudes toward each other? Couldn't we change the world? But the problem is that certainly leading the world, Sydney, has got no interest in waking up at all, and you'll probably notice that even I am not dancing on the rooftops, and that's mainly because at the moment we have the August winds, which is 100 kilometres an hour. Next week, when they finish, I'll be dancing on the rooftops, okay? But generally speaking, the entire media is more interested in selling you baked beans and consumer goods and the latest iPad phone and everything, and the latest digital camera, than telling you the wonderful news about afterlife. I think it's maybe because there's no money in afterlife. Yet, Victor Zammit does point out in his snappy little editorial here that you're going to see in a few seconds that It would be a very useful thing for court cases when they're not sure who murdered who, or if anyone was murdered at all, whether it was just death by misadventure. Mediums can often be called in to help, and they do this every week in the television show. It's really a landmark show, Sensing Murder. And without further ado, I'll give you Victor Zammit right now.
Commentary from Victor Zammit. It's time attorneys, scientists, professionals, and all police accept that the best psychics and mediums are highly gifted. Victor Zammit pictured here gets strident. I was watching the television series Sensing Murder in Sydney this week, where two mediums jointly gave 86 stunningly accurate correct facts. It's about a missing person, giving even the missing person's name and nickname, Siegfried, known as Ziggy. The mediums were not given any information about the missing person. They were given a photo of the face of the missing person. Most sensational, the two mediums, Deb Weber and Sue Nicholson, produced brilliant accurate information. Millions of people throughout the world watch the brilliant Sensing Murder and Psychic Detectives, and see how Duff Sr. and other police officers heap praise on to the psychics and mediums. The time is now, so why is it then that scientists, attorneys, and other experts in science and court evidence are avoiding investigating these and other gifted mediums? Too scared of the huge consequences? Not enough courage to seek the truth? Why not get these gifted mediums to participate in controlled experiments? It would be relatively easy to get 3 gifted mediums to independently investigate a cold case, a case that remains unsolved, using the same format as Sensing Murder. Their answers could be compared with the guesses or cold reading of 3 closed-minded skeptics like Wiseman, Randy, Shermer. It would be superb evidence for conservative establishment all around the world that gifted forensic psychic mediums are genuine, able to contact those victims, afterlife energies, who crossed over and obtain information that the police and science failed to obtain. Guaranteed, when the gifted mediums and psychics are formally tested by competent non-aligned scientists, the results will revolutionize our acceptance of the afterlife and the paranormal. See for yourself, dear reader, many examples of police officers praising gifted forensic psychics during investigation of cold cases. Link below this video.
So now that you've seen Victor's forceful editorial, and you can check the data, the information that he's presenting to you, you can even get hold of the Sensing Murder program. It's available over the internet if you can't get it on your local TV. It's on pay TV around the world. It's on free-to-air TV. And every week you keep watching it, you'll see it's triple-blind evidence of afterlife. Everyone gets an existence after their physical body is discarded. So, now here's an example to show you how asleep people are. I dare you, dear viewer, whoever you are, wherever you are, to approach half a dozen of your friends, workmates, acquaintances, relatives, and say, have you heard the good news about the scientific proof of life after death? See if any of them even blink. See if any of them even stop their mundane activities to ask you, say it again? Will anyone express surprise that they've apprehended a surprising piece of information? I suspect not. Most people just sort of glaze over and carry on doing their normal mundane activities like buying another iPad, going to work, driving a car, eating Big Macs and all that stuff. So it's a good test of, do you understand the fundamentals of life? Do you understand the most important aspects of life? And you will find, I suspect, a disappointing response from most people. So you, dear viewer, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever country you're in, you could just go and do a little survey and realise that most people want to remain asleep. It's not entirely their fault, by the way. It's partly due to the media bombarding them with mis and disinformation to try and stampede them into buying things and spending every dollar in their pay packet. That's the main function of the media today. And it leaves most people intellectually exhausted and just wanting a rest from it all. So But you could put them onto Victor Zammit and say weekly emails are available from Victor Zammit, giving you plenty of information, more than you can handle, about proof of afterlife. And it's also on mainstream television now, week after week after week. New Zealand police prove in triple-blind studies that afterlife is guaranteed for everyone. I mean, it does raise a lot of possibilities about all our fixation with murder and death on the TV. Is executing someone really that bad after all? Is death really so deplorable, so resistible? It might change your attitudes, might soften them, and make you think, well, it's simply that person's time to go. Rather than grieving for them, you'll discover that grieving for deceased people can do them harm if you overdo the grief. It causes them to be held near to the earth. That's the information we are given through channeled sources, such as these people on Sensing Murder. So, go and have a go at your friends, workmates, acquaintances, even stop people in the street, casual conversation in a coffee shop, you know. Have you heard the good news from the New Zealand police? All the information's available for you on mainstream television. There's links from Victor Zammit and all sorts of things. This video, in fact. And just see if they blink, see if they had the slightest interest in the meaning of life. I will suspect they don't, and it's partly because they're beaten half unconscious by a storm of mis and disinformation bombarding them from mainstream media. So I think I've said enough on this today.